Hello, my name is Melchizedek Leo, and I'll be discussing smoking disparities among pre-pregnant women. Pre-pregnancy smoking is known as smoking up to 3 months before pregnancy. So, a group of researchers hypothesized that smoking prevalency is associated with certain age and race or ethnicity groups, and the prevalency is estimated to differ within these groups. So, they wanted to test this hypothesis. This research is significant because this analysis may inform population based interventions for a tailored approach, such as smoking cessation interventions, and it may prevent future health complications for mothers and children. And they may greatly benefit from a tailored approach specific to their demographics. Addressing this adverse outcome may help prevent future health issues for the mother and children as well. Maternal health is a moral and humanitarian imperative. Maintaining maternal health helps prevent future health challenges for generations to come and family dynamics, communities, and health systems. In all, smoking remains the most common preventable influence for poor maternal outcomes. This study extracted data from the Pregnancy Risk Assessment Monitoring System, otherwise known as PRAMS. PRAMS is a part of the CDC initiative to reduce adverse birthing outcomes for mothers and infants. It is an ongoing population based surveillance system that is executed on the state level. Surveys are collected before, during, and 2 to 6 months after pregnancy. All states are responsible for their data collection every year. Nationally, the CDC targets a sampling frame of 1,300 to 3,400 mothers and surveys each year per state. It is a mixed method technique consisting of surveys to mothers. They are primarily contacted through mailing and phone call follow ups. This research used the years of 2004 to 2008 and analyzed data from 186,064 women from 32 states, including New York City. The key variables that were measured were maternal age by group of 18 to 24 or 25 and up. For each ethnic group, it was non-Hispanic white, non-Hispanic black, Hispanic, Alaska Native, American Indian, Asian, or Pacific Islander. Now, my data extraction was similar, which was through the PRAMS database, and I compared the author's data to New York City and the year of 2009. According to the study sample, 22% of women smoked during pregnancy as the national average. More specifically, the prevalency was higher among younger women across all racial ethnic groups. Now, to look at it even further, among women aged 18 to 24, smoking prevalency was higher among Alaska Natives, American Indians, and non Hispanic whites. Alaska Natives were 55.6%, American Indians were 46.9%, and non Hispanic whites were 46.4%, almost similar to American Indians. While contrastingly, it was lower among Hispanics and non Hispanic blacks and Hispanic Pacific Islanders. But overall, this trend was also identical within the ages of mothers 25 years and older. This study recorded that 26.9% of pre-pregnancy smokers consumed tobacco at a rate of 5 cigarettes or fewer per day. Meanwhile, 6 to 20 cigarette consumption per day was recorded at 61.2%, and those who consumed at least 20 cigarettes per day was at a rate of 11.9%. Now you're able to see the contrast within blacks and Hispanics. Young and older non Hispanic whites consume cigarettes at the same rate of 67.8%, and a significant difference was observed among the racial ethnic group of blacks and Hispanics. These groups consume less than one cigarette per day, ranging at the rate of 2.4% and 8.7%. So the author's analysis suggested that high prevalence is associated with non Hispanic whites and younger women in the national data between the years of 2004 and 2008. But since it includes state specific information and since it includes New York and New York City, I compared data from the years of 2008 and 2009. As you can see on the table in my comparative analysis, the same variables of race and ethnicity and age groups were used in the original analysis as well as mine. The result from the national average was almost similar to New York State. Therefore, the author's conclusion in their study is almost similar to mine. In 2008, based off the author's data, New York State recorded its highest rate of smokers among pre-pregnant mothers less than 19, who recorded smoking at a rate of 32.6%, and mothers within the ages of 20 to 24 was at a rate of 23.1%, and mothers between the ages of 25 to 34 was lower at a rate of 14.1%. The same was almost recorded with race and ethnicity, as you can see. And non-Hispanic whites was the highest smoking subgroup at 20.7%, then non-Hispanic blacks at 19.3%, then other at 10%, and Hispanic at 8.3%. Similar smoking trends were recorded with the 2008 national average in New York and 2009 in New York. The youngest age group of less than 19 years old had a higher smoking rate at 34.5%. 20 to 24 years old was at a rate of 24.9%, and 25 to 34 years old was recorded at 18%. The tendency was interchangeable with race and ethnicity with New York State in 2008. Non-Hispanic whites smoked the most at a rate of 26.4%, and non-Hispanic blacks were at 15.7%, and other was at 11.6%, and Hispanic was at 13%. The pre-pregnancy smoking trends across all variables were fairly constant throughout the 2 years. And as you can see, the rate of age group less than 19 increased steadily before it then decreased dramatically in 2010 rather, from 32% to 34% and then 25%. Meanwhile, the age group of 20 to 24 increased between the 2 years not so much, from 23 to 24%. Now, although the rates varied for the 2 years, non-Hispanic whites remain the leader for smoking consumption between the 2 years of 2008 and 2009, from 20% to 26%. Non-Hispanic blacks decreased from 19 to 15%, and non-Hispanic others increased from 10 to 11%, and Hispanics increased from 8 to 12%. So based on my comparative analysis in the original study, there were significant disparities among young women and racial ethnic groups, specifically non-Hispanic whites. Also, in conclusion, young women who soon become pregnant are more likely to be smokers at a higher rate than older women and those who do not become pregnant at all. These differences may be attributable to a myriad of reasons, ranging from social context and network to cultural norms and influences, but also biological variability in nicotine addiction, The results of this study may inform evidence based intervention tailored to these populations, as this study affirms the hypothesis of high prevalence among certain age groups and race and ethnicity groups. This may consist of culturally sensitive education on the dangers of smoking if they become pregnant, as mentioned earlier, also chronic disease programs in reproductive health settings. So there are several limitations with this study. First, the self reporting of smoking. We don't know for sure if it's accurate, as opposed to using some sort of biological validation. Therefore, the extent to which underreporting among pre-pregnant women with recent live births exists is unknown. But authors of smoking studies that use biological validation concludes that pregnant smokers are less likely to disclose their status than non-pregnant women. Also, the study did not account for pregnant women whose pregnancy did not end in a live birth, such as miscarriages and stillbirths, which I think is a valid population. Finally, the categorical ethnicities were challenging. The original report was able to cluster them in great detail, such as Alaska Native, American Indian, and Asian Pacific Islander. Meanwhile, the original analysis in their database, they lacked these specific groups, assuming they were considered others. Nevertheless, the results were still the same, with non-Hispanic white and younger women with the highest prevalence rate. Here are my references, and thank you for watching.